notice and approval of agenda with an amendment to staffing. Item 2B15, Jack Egan for football high school assistant coach.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Adam, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand. Item D, Watoma Area School District Strategic Plan, Mission Statement, creating positive foundations for the success of our children.
Strategic directions, business and community involvement through leadership, job shadowing, and mentorship.
Develop marketing of the district and community through branding.
Improve work and people skills.
Develop parental contact promoting school involvement.
Build productive relationships with the medical field to increase the support and open lines of communication to support students with mental health issues.
Item E, recognition of persons wishing to address the board. None. Item F, student staff presentation. Item 1, review facility study, facilities master planning. Step 3, the options of review.
So Nick and Devin are back from PRA to present sort of a little more exciting work than maybe we went back on CG Schmidt, but maybe a little more exciting than CG Schmidt.
Maybe you're setting the bar really high.
Yeah. So whenever you guys are ready, thanks for coming.
Awesome, thanks. As promised, we're back here in July, and Tom's right. We are going to share something a little bit more exciting, something that's a little bit more concrete, maybe a little bit more of a look into what the future might look like for our school. But before we get to that, Devin gave me all the fun stuff to recap just briefly what we've already talked about. So here's some smiling faces. Two of those faces are here today. Again, Nick Kent and Devin Cack from PRA, and these are our CG Schmidt friends who are doing the very important work of doing cost estimating and figure out how we actually put this stuff together. Our process for assessing this building, we've seen this before. We are now kind of in the step 4, so we're about midway through our master planning process, step 3 and 4. So we've looked at kind of the existing conditions already. We've talked about that. We've talked about some of the maintenance stuff in the past. We've talked about our educational assessment of the buildings, and now we're getting into what do we do about all these things that we've kind of identified and talked about, and what might some of those solutions start to look like as we think about the future of the school building. Coming up down the road as we move on from tonight, and what we're going to talk about and discuss tonight, we'll refine that a little bit more. So you see on this, that's step 4, kind of refining and continually honing in on what our direction might be for this building. Our friends at CG Schmidt will actually be doing that really important work, especially in today's world of putting cost estimates to this, and looking through all kinds of historical data, as well as looking at where the markets are today and trying to anticipate, which is really hard these days, but anticipate where costs will be in our near-term future. And that will finally lead us to what will be the master plan for this building with a total budget to execute this. What that looks like in timeline, again, we've seen this before, but it's always good to refresh ourselves with where we are in the overall process. We're out right now, here in the middle, summer 2022 in July. So we've come through those fact-finding and establishment of what our needs are, steps. We're working through concept development, which is what we're really excited to share with you tonight. And keep in mind, we are in the middle of developing that survey, which will go out to the community as we roll into the fall. So the work that we do here tonight, the things that we share, and the conversations that we have tonight will directly influence and impact what ultimately comes to you as that draft survey coming up later in the summer. And that's all teeing us up for that September-October community survey timeline, which will bring us to scope refinement in November. And ultimately, after we get those results, we'll be in a position to say we're either in good standing, we've done some good work, the community seems to be coming along with the work that has been done, or we have further work to do, and that'll be in November. And ultimately, that will lead us to a potential of an April 2023 referendum question. That's kind of what we're looking at. Again, this was shared out last time. This was the maintenance piece of it. So if we did nothing to this building, what would those maintenance lists be? And CG Schmidt shared this really important document, and of course, there's lots more detail behind it. But this is where we broke this down into those 3 buckets, 3 increments of need. A 1-year group of projects, a 2 to 5 year time frame for some more projects, and then our 6 to 10 years. So if everything were done and executed just on that maintenance side, that's about $5.9 million worth of maintenance projects in total. And what's really important to remember, that seems like a big number, but actually things are in pretty good shape with this building. This big orange chunk of pie over here, that alone is the roof. So one big project is nearly half of the total cost associated with the building. And that's frankly kind of a normal thing that we see. Roofs are big and roofs are expensive when they need to be replaced. So we also talked a little bit about educational space adequacy. We talked about target capacities, functional capacities. We looked at some space needs. And we talked a little bit about what some of those potential types of spaces could be as we start to think about transforming this building. We talked about increasing areas or opportunities for collaboration for the students and staff within the building. We talked about our gymnasium spaces, places where we can congregate as large groups, maybe a variety of smaller group spaces, places for those small group exercises, maybe those small things where there's an interventionist or a specialist that's working with a student. Things that maybe are happening in the hallways now that could happen in more appropriate learning spaces. Support for the whole student. That's addressing the individuality of every student, whether it's a more formal special education process or just a place for students to go, finding the appropriate spaces within the building. And then more fun spaces, student commons, and large group assembly, places where we can come together as a community and celebrate as a larger group. And then thinking about how these buildings will evolve and serve the community in the future. What about 4K? How does that work? How do we future-proof this building as we start to address more and more of the needs of our youngest learners in the building? How do we set this up for not just what our immediate needs are, but also position the community for future needs as things change? So it's all lots of great stuff, and these are nice pictures of previous buildings, but it's not Wautoma. So what we want to show you now, this is where Devin gets to have fun. This is actually what we've been working with Tom, with Jewel, and the team to really develop some thoughts on what this building could be transformed into and what it might look like as we move forward in this process.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And we're going to see on the screen first. It's a little small, but we're gonna show you some things that look like they're nearly done. Okay, in concept, but I want you to remember that these are still just in concept. Okay, so we've been working with Mr. Reimheiner and also Ms. Smucklin to develop these from our initial conversations that we've had over the months that it's been since March, developing these two concepts that we're going to share with you. One has a more overall kind of master plan to the site and how we can bring students to and from the building and potentially in a more safer manner. And they both go into a fair amount of detail in the actual physical floor plan. And again, things look kind of very permanent almost, but there's still a lot of flexibility. They will actually be designed, fully designed, should the community choose to support one of these options after obviously hearing from you all tonight, which is incredibly important. So starting off, this is option one. And before I get started, I'll just kind of explain. So this is South Water Street. So north is to the right-hand side. Here's the river off to the east. Here's West Division. The tan is the existing Riverview Elementary School. So the more red areas, those are proposed building additions. And we'll get into the detail of how those show the commitment of the school district to early childhood education, to supporting the whole student, as Dick mentioned, to physical education, to having a STEM focus to make sure that those kids are ready as they go on to the next school, as well as ensuring that we have safety and security covered. So first thing with safety and security is how are kids coming to the school? So obviously we're seeing something that doesn't exist today, again, in a master plan concept. So right now there's 4 residential parcels off to the west of the school. So this is a what if. This is much further down the road. We're not saying we're moving anybody out at this time or anything. This is a what if, right? If we had all those parcels, how could we accomplish bringing students to and from the school day? Well, number one is what do we do with our parents? We know that kids are getting dropped off in a higher and higher numbers. So bringing those parents along South Water Street, all the way to a new inlet here that has visitor parking, through a queue, double lane of traffic moving through. So we've got a nice long queue, trying to pull as many cars off the street as possible, and having our littles enter the building. We haven't talked exactly where they might enter, but we've got our new front door, and then we have access back over to our current gym. So then parents would go out here. So for buses then, bringing them in on South Jomo Court, coming in here, having drop off, and then they would circle back around the staff parking lot. So having very clear separation, so no longer having that mix of bus and parent traffic. We're also able to pave a little bit more of our parcel that we own right now, having some additional snow storage in the winter months, and some more staff or event parking adjacent to our existing gymnasium when we have events after the school day. You're seeing an addition that is fairly large off the back of the building, and probably considering, well, what happens to all of our play space and everything back there? Well, we've been able to identify and kind of zone developmentally appropriate play areas for our students. We've got hard surface, we've got soft surface, and we've also got a green space that could potentially be a small soccer field. We'll see in the plan detail that this might actually become to be known as the new student commons. So a new large group assembly or large group instruction space. So in this plan, we're sharing an option where we restore the gym, refreshen it, take out that folding partition, bring in something much more flexible and usable by staff, and restore that back to a full gym. We talked about the challenges from a scheduling standpoint at our last meeting, so restoring that. The other site features are, we've got a little outdoor amphitheater. We've been doing that more in schools, as well as a slide. So making sure that that's kind of built in, something fun. So go ahead and so if we jump inside, again, we're still doing the same color coding. So if you can recall that from the existing building, we saw that. So again, green is gymnasium or physical education. Our yellow is dark yellow is the library. We've also got a STEM space right in the heart of the building. The blue are our classrooms. The dark blue are special education. And then this kind of tan color is our student commons. So here, our new entrance, maybe I should step back. Where's our old entrance? Let me orient everybody. So our existing entry is right here. This is the front office. And where my hand is, that would be a building addition, as well as this section here, as well as a connector here, and a music and art addition over here. So going into a little bit more of the detail on these, we talked about a commitment to early childhood education. So making sure that we're ready, for future ready for full day 4K, should that become state funded. We also have early childhood special education room dedicated to those little ones, as well as the potential for a 3K classroom. If we think about bringing those 4Kers on, well, now we're kind of looking at the next age group and how can we bring those kids on as well to receive the services that we're already providing.
Don't know this, but commend Zoran Rankovic, who's a bus driver. Zoran was taking kids home for the late bus on the day of the tornado warning, and had a bus full of 12 kids, and all of a sudden I'm in my house and sirens are going off, and so I got a hold of Dave Riley. Dave got a hold of Zoran. We got them to the Shell station. That's what they were closest to. He got him in the Shell station. He waited with the kids in the Shell station in a secure area until the tornado warning was gone. Got the kids back on the bus and then took the kids home. Dave and Kendra Knudsen worked on calling the family so everybody knew where the kids were. But give Zoran credit for going above and beyond and making sure that he wasn't just out driving around during a tornado warning. Then he actually got to the Shell. So thanks, guys. So yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that.
All right. You turn around here. Hi, everybody. Jen, anything to add?
Just welcoming pending your approval, and I might contemplate these.
All right. Awesome. Well, Don, high school, you want to talk about part-time?
More to add in progress.
not at this time.
Alrighty, Joel. Nope, nothing to add. All right, Caitlin? Nothing. Alrighty, let's see what else we have left. Sarah, come here. Hi, Sarah. Nothing else to add? All right, and Steve's not here. All right, so that's everybody. Eric's not here. All right. Board members, anything to add? Okay. Moving on to item H, consent agenda, item 1, minutes. A, June 13th, 2022, monthly meeting. Looking for a motion. Motion by Barry, seconded by Jeanette. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, June 13th, 2022, closed session. I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion.
Motion by Karen, second by Barry. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, staffing. I will entertain a motion to take item A, 1 and 2, and item B, 1 through 15.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ross, seconded by Barry. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome aboard, Mike.
Thank you guys. Go, buddy.
Okay, go to work. Go to your office. All right. Item C, policy. Item 1, student academic standards notice.
Formality that the board has to approve this in July, to state that we follow the Wisconsin state standards or the national science standards. So, and they're posted on our website.
Looking for a motion? Motion by Adam, seconded by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item I, action items. Item 1, business and finance. Item A, approve the June 2022 treasurer's report.
I make a motion to accept it as printed.
I'll second.
Motion by Karen, seconded by Dawn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, approve the vouchers and payroll.
I make a motion to approve the vouchers and payrolls as printed.
Motion by Karen, seconded by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, approve the spending prior to the budget approval.
Another formality of when your budget hearing is not until October, because that's when we have our annual meeting. The board still has to give approval at the start of the year to be able to spend and to borrow if necessary. And so we just need board approval to get us between now and the second meeting in October, when we have our annual meeting and our budget hearing.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Right. Barry and seconded by Dawn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, approve the 2023 Watoma High School parking lot replacement project.
So it took a year to get a quote. And so we finally got a quote from Northeast Asphalt, who we've done business with in the past. They did this parking lot to the north of the building here. So now, if approved, we'll be on the June docket for 2023 to get it completed. And again, I think you can probably see the map, but it's the section south of the high school up to Crossroads, the driveway that goes out to 21, and then the whole back section going back into the old tennis courts. They're going to chew it up, replace it. And we went with the 4-inch recommendation because of all the heavy truck traffic that is in those areas instead of 3.5 inches. On the back page, Adam had asked if finance, there was a great question about the notes, like extra costs, and talking with Wayne, we do not, because of the scope of this project, we don't anticipate any extra costs for permits, any landscaping type things, or moving, worry about utilities, things of that sort. So I think we're good. So this will be the cost plus inflation in June, and we're aware of that, unless all of a sudden, you have a decrease.
May have a decrease with market right now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up. Yeah, so
Move to
that,
approve.
thank you.
I'll second.
Motion by Adam, seconded by Dawn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, policy A, approve the 2022-2023 2023 Watoma Area School District Employee Handbook Revision.
So usually with the employee handbook, there's quite a few changes that need to take place. This year there weren't, sort of semantic, change of dates, potentially names. And so Katie was able to get on top of this rather quickly, through everybody's cooperation. So we're able to get it approved tonight, hopefully, and then it'll be in effect before the employees actually come. It's usually September, when we're able to get this, and so this year we're ahead. Good job, Katie.
Move to approve the handbook.
Motion by Adam, seconded by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, negotiations personnel. A, approve the creation of Riverview Behavior Intervention Specialist position and job description, first and second consideration.
Jewel will speak to this one.
So yeah, I think in my board report and also at the last meeting, I spoke of, possibly shifting some positions, as we look at moving back to 4 sections rather than having 5 sections per grade level. And, just really looking at the staff perceptual survey and just other needs within the building, the idea came to creating this behavior intervention specialist position. What this position does, it aligns with our multiple levels of support, that work that we're doing, and really trying to support the students, really before they get to minus level, and helping them to learn the skills that they need to be successful behaviorally within that classroom. So the nature of this position would be, to assist both students and staff. Staff in the sense of developing and refining classroom and behavior management within the classroom, related to procedures, routine, those types of things. And then also supporting students both in the classroom, but then on those occasions when students need to be moved, in accordance to best practice and if the situation merits it. This position is not intended to be like a dean or administrative position. And the goal is really to focus on assisting the student in the classroom or through other means, whether it's in a sensory space or some of the other supports that we have within the school. There'd be heavy collaboration between counselors, administration, and this interventionist role. How I envision it looking within the first 6 weeks, we really try to keep students within the classroom as much as possible. So this position would be supporting, again, the teachers in terms of that classroom management, that behavior management, as students transition from summer back into school. So really providing that extra support at that universal level in the classrooms. And then from there, a schedule would be developed. It would be a very fluid schedule because, as we know, traumas come at all different points of the year. So if students need support, it varies. It's not you're helping the same students in January and the same students in May. It might be, but that's not always the case. So we'll really use the data to indicate what supports need to be covered by my position, covered by this position, covered by counselors. There's a lot of need to go around for us to make sure that this position is staying busy. I envision this position helping with attendance, again, those behaviors in and out of the classroom, really that tier 2 support and really leaving that in-depth behavior support on me and the counselors.
I think, I think Joel said it early, but with the amount of FTEs that teachers that Joel had when she came into Riverview with these positions and looking at these things and going to 4 sections, she's not going above that number. So like she was at 32.4.
34.2.
34, thank you, 34.2. She's not above that 34.2, even with this addition of position. So just so you're aware that this is not additional spending. It's just using the staff differently to be more effective in the setting.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
I think I heard Jeanette.
She's closer.
Motion by Adam, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion or questions around this?
I think it's a really good idea. I've seen Jill in action firsthand, and I think it's a necessity.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Make it happen, Joel.
All right, J, board governance, item 1, discussion only, the 2022 WASD Staff Perceptual Survey Comparison.
So every year, we bring this data forward to you and we try to, show you in 3-year increments of staff perceptual survey by building and by item. And so I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. If you would like to take it with you and continue to look at it and have us put this back as an agenda item in August, we can do that. If you have any questions now, the principals are all here. They can answer the best they can. If you're mad at Deb, too bad. Doug's here. You can yell at me.
I guess principal wise, you guys had this data how long? Month and a half, okay, oh, yeah. A month and a half, so I guess my question to more of the principals would be, you've seen your data. I would maybe more want from you, whether it's today or it's next meeting is, where you see the areas of a decrease, what are you kind of putting in place versus us questioning you over and over again? And I know you looked at the data, I know you were thinking what to do. I don't know if you're prepared tonight to talk more about it, or if you want to be more of a August agenda item with that, unless the board wants to go and hash everything.
I'd be fine with them including in their written reports for.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
Some strengths and areas of
Yes.
improvement. Yeah. There's some good improvement
Oh,
in
yeah.
a lot of the
I love
areas, so we could even address those.
There's a few minuses, but I think I'd rather hear from you guys versus us just questioning you over and over. Just tell us kind of what you're planning for those areas. Board, we're okay with that?
And again, just to bring this up, it's just nice to keep a pulse on things, when you think things are, it's always right, you think things are moving smoothly, and if you don't ask people, maybe if they're not moving as smoothly as you think they are. And so it just keeps a nice finger on the pulse of, wow, this really took a dip this year, we need to pay attention. And, Jules coming to you with a position, because of, analyzing this data going, we need to look at something. And so that's what.
I think this data has been so skewed because of COVID, too. And I think we're gonna start to get back to some more normalcy here where, the ongoing trends are gonna mean more than looking at the past 2 years for me.
And
I
that's what
still think comments would be appropriate.
Yeah. I looked at this and I was actually pleasantly surprised due to the COVID transition in and out. I thought the numbers would reflect a little more negative because of the numbers in and out, but no, I'll be looking forward to what the principal said.
So since the data came out about a month and a half ago, then have you had a chance to share it with the staff before we left the school year?
It's pretty late.
Pretty late to come
Yeah.
in. So what do you guys do then? You can sit in your office and come up with ideas. What did you do in the past then with this data, the previous years? How did you involve staff to kind of problem solve it, not all on your shoulders?
That's what we do during strategic planning, families we did, I think the other principals too, we do a lot of, they review the data
Okay.
and look at it and
Yeah.
come up with ideas on how to
Sure.
make the changes, and then we set that in our strategic plan, our goals, and what we're gonna do. And
So-
those areas.
Yeah, for example, when I first took over code of conduct, it
Yeah.
was really low. So I took it to my leadership team and we completely revamped how we track behaviors, how they're reported, what system is in place when the child is misbehaving, and.
Yeah.
Numbers were actually.
But that's just one example, so
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
so took it to the staff.
Sure.
Tried to brainstorm why we thought.
Yeah.
We were getting these results and figured out how to put it together.
So we took the celebrations and the areas that either remained consistent or increased. I previewed that data with the staff at our end of the year staff meeting, and then typically we address it over in service, just what is most important to us, and then developing a plan from there. Next year, we're taking that more data-driven approach rather than the staff identifying those areas that they feel need to be addressed the most. The data is gonna lead the discussion and the strategic planning. So really, I'm gonna be leading heavily on the strategic, or my steering team, and just helping to find out more information. And part of it that we've discovered is, a strongly agree to some person is going to be very different than an agree to someone else. So really trying to norm that by developing some rubrics that, what does an agree look like? And is that, relevant within your role? And then kind of just having more of that strategic plan aligning with,
The reason why I asked that, the one simple question is, both some of them with their job. I look forward to coming to work. You guys can't tell that in your office. That's them figuring that out, so that's why I wanted to ask, what was the input from the staff?
I like the point you make there, Jewel, because for me, answering these questions, if I'm an administrator or a teacher in the school district, there's a big difference between strongly agree and agree. And mine's different than theirs, different than yours. I guess I agree with you. It's much different than absolute value, right? So how do you further define that? I mean, these things are never perfect, but if we can make them better, more valuable, we should.
A few of these questions are relevant for our admin staff. What do you guys feel for yourselves? So these questions are pertinent for you guys at your level. You don't fill it out as staff, but have you ever, what do they fill out when it comes to?
I did this.
You did it?
Uh-huh.
You guys
I did
did
it.
it, so?
I have never answered it for myself.
I this is
I'm doing an amazing job.
She enjoys coming to work every day. I know, and there's a question here, I'm actually doing the tools for my job, there's a few in here, I just didn't know what level they have, we have some people filling out and some people don't.
Well,
I don't always, but-
Right, yeah, part of it is too, is really trying to help the staff be able to articulate how to get to that next level of success.
Right.
Because more often than not, when we do look at, okay, how do we get you to an degree? I don't know what I want, so just having those types of conversations.
All right, well, then we'll look forward to seeing that in your report, next month, and all the problems we solved. Item 2, discussion only legislative update.
I talked to Mrs. Bowen, which she was in conference in Wichita, Kansas, and still found time to call me. She's wonderful. But not much to talk about as far as on the state level. They did, Tom, I'm sure you're following this, but at the federal education level, they're looking at Title IX, making sure districts are following all the federal guidelines, and they don't step on any gender toes.
Well, changing it again. It just got changed in 2020, in the summer of 2020, and it looks like it's going to go through the legal process again. So I'm sure it'll be our Title IX people, which is Jewel and Jen. They'll probably be going through training again.
Yeah.
Sort of the compliance officers for it.
That's just make sure you're keeping your dollars in line. There's already 25 attorney generals representing a number of different states that are making sure that the federal government don't step over their guidelines and their means on that.
Okay. All right. Item K, board suggested future agenda items. Our monthly meeting on Monday, August 8th, 2022 at 6:15 in the Watoma High School Library. If you have any future agenda items, please let Tom or myself know. Item L, adjourn to close executive session under state statute 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, which if discussed in public will be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigation. Jeanette, roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adam
Yes.
Dawn Peterson.
Here.
Yes.
All right. We'll go to the closed session in here.
Thank you.